everyone. Guess who's back? Kamish back here with another team preview. This time we got original owner Milan and just recently named Nighty Knights. And obviously for Milan, he's tried a few names here in LOD and unfortunately has not had much success. As you saw there in the intro, has never made the LOD playoffs. One of the, I think, only two current teams that have never made it, or might even be one of only two lifetime. Well, no, because Kashima Belichick hasn't made the playoffs yet either, but he gets a bit of a free pass. He's only been here for 1 year. Milan's a pleasure to have in the league. There's no doubt about it. He's always been there when we need him there during the season, and that's really what it's all about. I'm just going to share my screen, get into Milan's preview here, and begin this PowerPoint presentation for his team. And here we go, Nighty Knights, Milan. Let's get right into it. So I'm going to start off by saying I think Milan's team is the one team where I probably have his ranking wrong in offense and his ranking off on defense, and maybe it should be vice versa. It's the only team that I kind of feel a little bit weird about. Maybe one or two others, but this is just how it originally got graded, and I'm just going to go with my original gut instinct. So offense, I got you power ranking of 8. So that's in the top half of the league. So that's a playoff team offense, right? So 8th would get you in. Let's see where I have you ranked here. So quarterbacks, here's one where I'm like, did I maybe rank you a bit too high? I got you 8th. Big part of it is just because of Dak. Dallas always seems to be in a lot of primetime games, sometimes games that have a lot of points where Dak could put up points for you. Matt Stafford's the other guy, and this is where actually I have some fairly big question marks, and maybe some other teams that have some younger quarterbacks would say, well, you know what? Matt Stafford has more question marks than the guys you said I had question marks on. And he does. Matt Stafford very well. The injuries, this guy's had so many injuries. I just think that, eventually they're going to catch up, and maybe they do catch up this year for the Rams, and they finish dead last and get Caleb Williams. I can totally see it happening, him going to a big market. If you're a hockey fan, Connor Bedard went to the big market with Chicago, and it looked like it was almost pre-planned because the broadcast had already announced the pick before the pick had even been made. So I don't know, just really weird stuff. You know that. But either way, I gave you 8th for now just because of Dak's potential to get up a lot of points there with Dallas. Going with running backs, again, this is where a big power ranking comes from for your 8th position. I got you first, if you can believe it. So you lead the league in running backs. Here's why I think you lead the league in running backs. Okay, you got good point producing running backs. I think you have 5 here, right? Saquon, he's top 10, right? Kenneth Walker. A lot of people said his role will be reduced. I think it will be reduced some. There's no doubt about that. I think it would be foolish to think it won't be with Zach Charbonnet there. Javonte Williams, he's the big wild card, though, for this year, right? You might not get him till late in the year. Devastating knee injury last year, so we'll have to see how he comes back. James Cook, though, on the flip side, sounds like he's going to have a bigger role in Buffalo. That's what I keep hearing. I know they've added some running backs, right? Damian Harris, etc., but I've been hearing he's going to have a bigger role. Dante Foreman, he's right there in the mix with Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson running the rock in Chicago. I could see Foreman maybe getting the goal line carries. Who knows? Lots of points there, right? So, and then Pierre Strong, who knows what his role's going to be? And then he also, got the other Seattle running back, Kenny McIntosh, which I also thought was fairly smart with a rookie draft pick. So I got you first in running backs. So great job, Milan. Next up, wide receivers. And you might be surprised to hear this, but I got you 12th. This is where I have you a bit on the weekend, weaker end here in terms of your offensive ranking. You might be like, what? How you have me at 12th? Like, look at all these guys I got. Yeah, you got a lot of guys, but I honestly don't see a lot of true guys that are going to put up a lot of points. T. Higgins, yeah, he's good. Michael Thomas, he hasn't been good relevant for a couple of years, right? Like, let's be honest. Chris Godwin, well, Baker or Kyle Trask is throwing the ball there. That could be tough. And then you got Booty, Agnew, McKenzie in on a new team, Reynolds, Hinton, Randall Cobb on a new team. Pettis, Brian Edwards, and then Tyler Scott, Xavier Hutchinson as rookies. And this is where, when I look at your draft, I think you had a good draft. You drafted Will Anderson early in the second round. I think you could probably get a cup even more running back down, maybe even a tight end, right? But you also drafted two wide receivers here in a wide receiver room that's already plugged. You got 13 guys there. I think the most we could dress is 6, 7 in the lineup. I'm not 100% sure on that, and I probably should know. But I just 13 on the roster. Some of those guys aren't even going to see a single snap on your team, so to speak, right? So just something to think about. I mean, again, I'm no expert. Next up, tight ends. This is where I gave you 9. Okay, so this is where I think you probably could have added to the tight end room instead of adding, Will Anderson or a couple of, wide receivers. But Dalton Schultz, new surroundings in Houston. Pat Fryermuth, he's going to have some competition now with Washington, but I still think his job's pretty safe. Then you got Jordan Akins. I think you could have just added another depth piece to the tight end room or waited a bit on a guy like Luke Musgrave or someone along those lines. Michael Mayer. I don't know if he was still available or maybe he got picked right before. But anyways, I 8th on offense, and I think actually now that I've ran through your preview, looked at the running backs, I think it's still, even though I brought up the questions with Stafford, it's still a legitimate 8th ranking. Next up, maybe this is where I think maybe I might have ranked you a bit low, but again, when I look at how much depth you have and the surplus of wide receivers, maybe this also factored into my decision of 13th. So again, there's not many names there, right? Like there's not a lot of depth, and I'm not saying you need the depth, right? IDP, I think somebody said online earlier, it's a fairly fluid position group all year long, and that's true. Again, I brought up the example Jonathan Owens last year. Nobody drafted him at DB. I'm pretty sure he was the best DB in fantasy last year. So what's that tell you, right? I don't think it's a bad strategy carrying a thin bench here. There's always going to be an IDP available on the waiver. We're starting with DLLB, and you got some pass rushing talent there. Will Anderson coming in as the rookie prospect. Aiden Hutchinson's last year's #1 prospect. Jonathan Allen, he was ranked up there when he was drafted. You got Ojolari to the room. Melvin Ingram, obviously bringing in a veteran presence, but this room has a lot of potential for sack numbers for sure. Middle linebacker, still, I think it looks pretty good as well. Like you got Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell. These guys are going to put up points. Aziz is now in Tennessee in a new situation. Corey Littleton, he's in a new situation in Houston, I believe. So, that's going to also could create opportunities for him there as well. DB, you went more with the boom players. You went with Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, Devin Witherspoon. You're clearly hoping for the interceptions. Jalen Ramsey going to new surroundings might have to prove himself again for the 1 year he may try. So, when I look at the group, again, I'm always a firm believer that you for DBs, you want to have some safeties in there just for the consistent production of the tackles. But I thought, you do have a couple of decent middle linebackers there and some good pass rushers. So these guys are going to be in the lineup, the majority. I do feel you could add a little bit more depth, though. Think about that wide receiver position. The thing is, some people think, it'd be easy for me to move some of those wide receivers. But if it's one thing I've noticed, wide receivers are plentiful in this league, and really you just want to have the top end of wide receiver on your club. Anyways, Milan, again, always a pleasure to have you in the league, man, and hope you enjoyed the preview. And best of luck to you this year.